Alex, I know exactly what you mean. There are always going to be a couple of people who go too far, but the overwhelming sentiment is of goodness and the country moving in the right direction. And you talked about how spiritual the day was, and it was moving when even those who are not religious, indeed those who identify as atheists, like great comic writer Graham Linehan, the man behind Father Ted and Black Books, he had this to say about what he witnessed during Charlie Kirk's funeral. He said, "You don't have to be religious to recognise a martyr when you see one." Alex, is that how you see Charlie now?
Charlie, 1000% is a martyr. He died for free speech, doing what he loves, protecting the First Amendment, and he would protect the Second Amendment. I think he would wholeheartedly, even after this horrible tragedy. So anybody that was in that building, whether it was Graham or whether it was you and I, you could feel the metaphysical presence of the Lord, of God, in that building. It was truly a sight that I have never seen in my life. So Charlie has this way to turn atheists into believers. And no doubt in my mind, is Charlie a martyr? He died, protecting what he loved the most, freedom of speech.
And there was actually a section during the day when people who are not believers but who want to believe were asked to stand up, and there were a few in the crowd who did stand up and people prayed with them. So that was really quite a moving moment as well. Now, let's have a look at the other side. Let's have a look at how this professor of European politics, John Brennan, described Charlie's funeral. This is a funeral where Charlie's grieving widow, Erica, forgave the killer. But this is how an academic chose to see it. He said it was America's Nuremberg rally, almost like we were living in 1935. Extremism worshipped like a religion. Alex, that's an academic. That's why so many kids are messed up, depressed, nuts. And that's what Charlie was trying to counter.
Exactly right. All of these administrators and teachers are part of the problem on why kids are so unhappy. And I can see why a building full of 100,000 people just getting in this zone and praising the Lord and coming together, that can be a threat to an atheist teacher that wants to indoctrinate kids into thinking that their life has no meaning and that they just evolved from pond scum and that two rocks are smashed together, and they evolved literally from nothing. So they have a totally different worldview than anybody else in that building. So when they do see a revival like that, a literal Christian revival, I'm actually not surprised that they have that reaction, because they hate to see other people celebrating and having a good time, because they want people to suffer like they suffer.
Alex, it shocks me that you could have the grieving widow of Charlie Kirk forgiving the killer on stage, and someone could watch that moving moment and still compare the event to Hitler. I mean, that just shows you how far gone some people are. Now, I want to move on to other issues, and the Trump administration designating Antifa as a terrorist group. Do you see that as a step too far?
I personally don't see it as a step too far, because we need to figure out who is funding these radical extremist groups. And if you look back, I mean, the government will always label any group that's not even that extreme as extremist. So this has been a long time coming when we're talking about Antifa. They have done horrible things, not just to Andy Ngo, a huge journalist that was assaulted and stalked by Antifa, but their whole agenda is to create as much chaos and damage, and they do not care if people get hurt. So I hope that Donald Trump actually figures out where these people are getting money to commit crime and make our country safe. So I'm happy. I don't want a bunch of government overreach when it comes to Antifa, because I've dealt with these people. They're freaks. They need a little government intervention, and they all should be on some sort of registry, if you know what I mean.
Yes, Alex, we've seen Antifa and their acts of violence for years now. Finally, a little bit of accountability. I can see why many see them as domestic terrorists. Alex Stein, thank you so much for your time tonight.
Thank you, Rita.